here at the Bastl Instruments with Bastl. He's going to show us their new sensors.
Yeah, so what we have here is our new modular, and we are happy to introduce some of these modules right here. And you're looking now at the sensor modules, which you are really happy to have, and each of basically they can take any sensor that's based on giving out analog voltage or a resistance, and then this module can amplify and calibrate that into CV and gate signals. So what I'm going to try here is to have some water drops.
So that water drop is going onto a sensor, which is then being used to trigger a...
Exactly, yeah. That's a piezo sensor, and I have a one of these is amplifying the signal, and there is a threshold, so it gives gate to trigger the envelope, more or less, yeah. So that's like one of the ways how you can use it. Like right here, we have a pulse sensor. So if I put my finger on it, it sort of gets into this module here, and you can see that's actually my pulse blinking in here. So that's making the gate out of my pulse, so I can use this pulse as a master clock. The same I can do really with the water drops. That's really just ways how to getting regular signals from the world, or basically any signals from the world, and translating them into the language of modular.
So you've kind of built the most exciting booth in MESSE this year, I would say.
Oh, really? Nice to hear that. So, and I think I'm going to start the sequencer now, because the fun part about this is that it's mostly actually acoustic, although it's a modular synth. So, like down here, we have a little solenoid plugging into the cardboard box, which is kind of a bass drum for us here. Then we have a little solenoid hitting the bottle here, which makes a little nice swinging, so we have really natural swing. And then we have a snare drum with a servo motor. So the servo motor is spinning with the solenoid, which is hitting the snare drum, and the servo motor actually, as we see, it's spinning now. It's actually driven by an LFO. So that's a triangle LFO, which is calibrated through the sensor servo motor module to pan in the right angles, so to say. So let's have a look at those. We also have these. I didn't really calibrate those. Yeah. So basically, that was like for the DC motors. So I've already said, now maybe I can stop this. So we have the solenoid driver module, we have the servo motor driver module, and we have the DC motor driver module. And important thing to say about these is that the modular path and the motor driving path, like all the circuitry, is completely optically isolated. So there is no ground connection. The motors require their own power supply. I'm just using an old computer power supply. That's really one of the cheapest you can get, and they're really strong to drive motors, so I would recommend you to use those. And yeah, so basically there is no ground connection in between those, and therefore there is like noise transfer, nothing's coming back from the motors really. And also it serves as a protection of your modular. So if something gets fucked up with the motors, it doesn't go back through the optical isolation. That's I think was really important touch when designing these modules. So maybe we can have a closer look at the solenoid driver. We have 4 trigger inputs and 1 knob. And if I play this and turn the knob, the knob actually sets for all of the solenoid drivers how long the pulse, output pulse for the motors is. So if it's shorter, the solenoid doesn't go all the way through its body and it doesn't hit the object so hard, so you can actually use this knob for controlling the dynamics of the servos. So I do a bit of, I try to, yeah, so not sure if you can hear that it's a little bit not too loud at the moment and louder now, yeah. So that's about the solenoid, and then we have the servo motor driver here. And this one has 2 channels to drive 2 servo motors, and there is a trigger, or like maybe better to say gate input, and a CV input for each of those channels, and 2 potentiometers to set the parameters. If you're using the CV input, you set the angle of the, maybe we can have a look in here. I'm just turning the angle knob, which sets the angle of the servo motor, and then the other potty, when I'm using the CV input, acts as an attenuator for the CV input. So you can really like find the angle, and when you have your LFO, it just goes in the range, like it gives you the angles you really need, as I have it here on the snare drum below. So it really goes through the angles I really need. But on this one, I'm really using the trigger input, and when I'm using the trigger input, the first potty sets really the angle, and the other potty sets the second angle when the gate is high. Yeah. So, and I'm triggering the gate from my sequencer here. So that's really useful for making this sort of like drummy use of the servo motor.
So you can get really kind of precise angles and range as well.
Yes, exactly. And also like with those, like how you set the angles, you can also work with the dynamics when hitting physical objects. Yeah. I mean, as you can see, like a lot of it is really about mechanical stuff, like that you do afterwards with the motors. What we have here is really like set up somehow to be used musically, but with the motor modules and with the sensor modules, the main point for me, as I see it, is really that you can take any information from the real world and translate it into another information in the real world. And you can do it by means of patching, and you don't. So you can use the modular synthesizer not to really synthesize sound, but really to reconfigure your world basically in any way you wish, and that might really create some really interesting narratives and maybe even some really interesting discoveries. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
When are they available?
Now.
Okay. And what's the price on each one of them?
Excluding the tax, all the servos and both the sensor, each of them is €100.
Wow, excellent. Thank you very much.
Thanks.